Generally speaking, are blood tests more accurate than breath tests?
Well, generally speaking, yes. Blood tests are actually measuring the amount of alcohol in your blood, whereas breath tests are measuring ketones that are being blown off after your body has processed the alcohol. So much more accurate, but more than that, blood tests, they preserve the evidence so you can have it retested. They typically draw at least 2 vials of blood so that you can preserve it for retesting. And also the procedures can then be tracked and followed, whereas with the breath testing, gee, if one thing went wrong on that machine and it didn't tell us, if the chamber wasn't heated to the correct degree and the breath went into a colder chamber, the entire machine would give you a wrong reading.
Right. I mean, we talked about earlier that some people were afraid of needles. Let me expand on that a second. Somebody sticks me, we're doing a blood test. Can it be improperly drawn? Does that ever happen?
Absolutely. If they use an alcohol swab right before they stick a needle in, you've got raw alcohol going into the sample.
I didn't think about that. That's amazing. Now let's talk about chain of custody for just a moment. We have this blood test and this evidence. What about chain of custody issues?
Well, chain of custody is something that you've seen on TV a lot, and that's probably the thing that TV gets right. Chain of custody is a big issue. In North Carolina, typically a trooper is going to be at the hospital and they're going to have this blood kit, and they're going to have a nurse draw it, and hopefully they follow the right procedures. But then blood is a biological material and it breaks down over time. It's got to be preserved properly, handled properly, and stored properly. And so if it's not handled and stored properly, no telling what is going to happen to the alcohol in it. It
Right.
could ferment. I mean, biological materials ferment. But let's go one step further. Blood is, by its very nature, nondescript. If you show me 2 vials of blood, I can't say, oh gee, I recognize that one, that's my blood, and the other one's your blood. It's impossible to tell. So chain of custody is critical in these cases because every vial of blood looks the same, and the North Carolina laboratories don't have a real good record of keeping their evidence straight. I don't know if you followed that in the papers the last few years, but we've got some problems with chain of custody in North Carolina.
What about if the impairment refers to some kind of drug use?